and it ended up with nobody being hurt, nobody being injured. However, there appears to be a little bit more concern again about perimeter safety in and around Trump. And again, this is the second attempt in the span of 2 months, almost to the day. In fact, if you look at it, I mean, the Butler, PA attempt happened on a Sunday. 2 months later, this attempt happens on a Sunday. And you just have to wonder what is going on. Why is Trump such a target? Why are they going after Trump? Well, I mean, let's face it, he's the most consequential political figure of this century. He is the backlash to the Obama 8 years. He's the backlash to the Biden 8 years. He's the massive contrast between what you did see with Joe Biden for the last 4 years and what will be the agenda of Kamala Harris. And he's a disruptor. He stands to stand against the swamp to shake things up again. And he's a lot smarter this time. So obviously, I don't know. Nobody knows who this individual is. Nobody still understands the motive behind the PA shooter as well. Nothing's been discovered in that way. There's been no forthcoming from the Secret Service about anything that they have found. The Butler, PA shooter had a very light, apparently, internet footprint. So the speculation, who knows? And this shooter, we don't know enough yet as to why, but certainly Trump is a target. He is a very large target. He is the largest political figure of our time right now. And so if you have a deranged individual looking for his own, 15 minutes of fame, his notoriety, his mark in the history books, who knows? Is that the reason? Certainly the guy was deranged. Now he came out of the car, according to news reports, without any discussion, without asking, why are you pulling me over? Why are you pulling me out of the car? Why are you arresting me? Apparently there was no conversation about that. We're going to learn a lot more. At least this shooter, I don't think he actually shot anything off. He did have apparently what appear to be some sort of AK-47 type weapon, maybe an AR-15 with a scope. He also had a GoPro. Well, what do you do with a GoPro? You film things with a GoPro. Was he, again, looking for his 15 minutes of fame? Did he want his name splashed around everywhere? Did he want to watch the media circus? Who knows? But here's what we do know. Trump's a threat. And, okay, there's political rhetoric on both sides. I get it. I understand. But there's been no bigger target by the left. They've made Trump a huge target. Let's put it that way. The left has with their rhetoric. Their out of control rhetoric. So we don't know what's going on, but we do know that Trump is very important. I don't know if you remember this clip, but this is Nigel Farage from my conversation with him a couple weeks on this show. And Trump's not just important for America, he's important for the entire world. Take a listen, just as a reminder.
2016, where Brexit and Trump was just the sort of shot across the bows in naval battle terms. There is much bigger, much more radical change to come. Countries' governments across the West will become much more conservative over the course of the next 5 to 10 years. And thank goodness, because if they don't, we will lose everything. And I think about the fact that everything really in our legal system comes from the Ten Commandments. It comes from our Judeo-Christian culture. These are the bases upon which we have built a civilization in which mankind has flourished in terms of health, in terms of wealth, in terms of freedom, in a way that no other group of human beings ever have in history. We have something enormously monumental to be proud of, to encourage our children at school and university to believe in. The left are trying to destroy all of that. The conservative movements have been too gutless to stand up and fight for it. And that's why we're seeing the kind of change that we're seeing. That's why Donald Trump leads the Republicans, not someone like Mitt Romney.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. Now, Nigel happened to be in Chicago at the Conrad Hilton for the Heartline Institute 40th anniversary dinner. It was him. It was Larry Arnn from Hillsdale College. It was Harold Volymsky, who I also had on. He is a member of the EU Parliament from Austria. It was a great event. And Nigel said very much the same thing that you just heard on that clip, that Donald Trump is a consequential figure. That Donald Trump represents a cleaning out of the swamp. He is a disruptor to people who want to remain in power. And they could not have hyped up the rhetoric more than they have with his entering the presidential race again in 2024 and being unafraid to do it. And so they're after him. The political left is after him. Now, how that played out in today's second assassination attempt, we don't know. I will say that. But I will say that the rhetoric is pretty hot towards Donald Trump, and that if you're looking for notoriety again, this is how you would take somebody like Donald Trump out. Anyway, we're going to go to break a little bit earlier because the next coming up is Ken Cuccinelli. We're going to talk about election integrity and the things that have been happening around the country in that regards. He runs the Election Integrity Network. And we're going to be talking later on with Jessica Hockett. Of course, Andrew Cuomo, former governor of New York, was in the hot seat in Congress and talking about those nursing home deaths and that it wasn't his fault. Jessica Hockett has an idea about that. She's done a lot of research, and we're going to talk about a book that she actually was a contributor to. In the 8 o'clock hour, it's Charles Lipson, and he's, of course, one of my favorite guests. He's written 2 new books, though. One for students. Actually, both of them are for students, and one is about free speech on campus, and the other one is about academic honesty in the age of AI. So that's the show lineup. Stay with us. Again, this is Jeannie Ives on The Real Story. We'll be right back with Ken Cuccinelli.
Join John Anthony, host of Black and Right, for a cruise on Lake Michigan on Saturday, September 21st. Come aboard the luxury yacht Free Spirit for a fun afternoon with fellow AM 560 listeners. Enjoy great food and beverages and be a part of the live broadcast of Black and Right with John Anthony. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/cruise. That's 560theanswer.com/cruise. Sponsored in part by Opum Tax Advocates and attorney Stephen A. Leahy.
The American military brings together brave men and women from across the country who have chosen to answer the call when their country needs them most. At aviatorfuel.com, we know the military because we live the military life. With books written by a Navy pilot and run by a hard-working military spouse, aviatorfuel.com is proud of our service and our country. That's why we never compromise on authenticity. Our cocktail books are modeled off the real Army, Navy, and Marine pilot checklists that military aviators have used for decades. But instead of a procedure on how to handle an engine fire, you'll find the procedure for how to make a mojito. From classic recipes to military specials like the Queen of Battle or the Afterburner, our cocktail books have something special for every veteran. So go to aviatorfuel.com and get ready to raise a glass to the brave men and women who serve our country. That's aviatorfuel.com.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, doctors Economos, Gavalis, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidiscipline practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930, 630-830-4930, or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
If you own or run a business and you listen to AM 560, you might not realize that the conservative programming that you enjoy is supported by advertisers. Our loyal listeners love to do business with the advertisers they hear every day on AM 560. Now, it probably won't surprise you that there are some businesses who avoid advertising with us because they don't like what we do here. And that's okay, because our audience wants to support businesses that support what we do and think like we think. We would love to have you join the list of successful companies who are already reaching new, like-minded customers. Most AM 560 advertisers have been here for years for one simple reason: they get results. Join our efforts to make a difference in the lives of our listeners who are passionate about supporting our great family of AM 560 advertisers. To learn more, just visit 560theanswer.com/advertise. That's 560theanswer.com/advertise.
The Real Story with Jeannie Ives continues on AM 560. The Answer.
All right. Welcome back. It is The Real Story with Jeannie Ives. Thanks for joining me on this Sunday night. The next segment's very important, and in fact, it was covered by Maria Bartiromo on her Sunday show this morning. She had Ron DeSantis on about election integrity. Here's what he said that Florida is doing.
Well, you pointed out on the cryon, Maria, we have banned ballot harvesting in the state of Florida and imposed stiff penalties. That should be done nationwide. Of course, we require photo ID in order to vote. We've banned the use of Zuckerbucks, and we've been aggressive at policing the voter rolls so that we have accurate voter rolls. And when people have run afoul of our election laws, this election crimes unit we've created has been able to investigate, refer these people to prosecution.
So as we look at all the debate going on with the presidential election, we look at people that are doing outreach to voters. I was just at a Charlie Kirk event in Wheaton the other day. I mean, it's true, and he's working really hard on it. It is a voter turnout election. It is not necessarily a persuasion election, although there are still a few people that we want to persuade. But more and more, we can't get away from the fact that it is about election integrity as well. And given the campaign of 2020, given 2022, I'm sorry, there's still a lot of questions about how campaigns are conducted. So to talk about that with me tonight is Ken Cuccinelli. He's the former Virginia Attorney General and acting Deputy DHS Secretary. Ken Cuccinelli serves as the national chairman of the Election and Transparency Initiative. Oh, that's old. You're no longer, I don't think, the acting deputy DHS. But over 20 years, Ken has fought on the front lines of the conservative movement to defend our Constitution and preserve our sacred freedoms and liberties. That means preserving our vote. And so he is fighting for transparent, secure, and accountable election voters that we can all trust. And he does that through the Election Transparency Initiative as the chairman. Mr. Cuccinelli, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Before we get to this, though, could I just talk to you about what your initial reaction to the second attempt on President Trump's life?
Well, it's a very sad thing to see. With now, this counts now as frequency when you have more than one. One is, an incident. Two is frequency, and now you actually worry about the copycat problem escalating. It's not a linear function, it's an exponential function for all the engineers out there. And so now the possibility of this happening again gets even worse. And there will be a break point at the election, but when Secret Service reported to me at DHS, we of course we never had anything like this, but this kind of a 2 times in 2 months is truly extraordinary. This has never happened to any other president in history. So for actual shots fired. So this is very concerning. And I think what you should expect to see is, setting aside what anybody thinks about what the Secret Service has done to date, you'll see a very significant escalation in the level of agents around, whether they be police liaisoning with the Secret Service or additional agents. You can fully expect to see that.
Well, I think we live in strange times right now. I think that it's a politically charged environment, no doubt. Trump, again, he's a disruptor. And there's many on, there's been a lot of heated rhetoric around this campaign. And there's, it's going to be one of those elections where the polling is pretty tight right now. And when it comes to election day, if we're still counting votes, 2 days later or 3 days later, I just don't know what will happen to this country.
Oh, we will.
From that standpoint.
We will definitely be counting votes 2 or 3 days later.
Okay, so tell us what's going on that front, and what's going on in terms of election security.
So unless this is a blowout, which frankly I hope for, then I fully expect to see vote counting going on 2 and 3 days later. I mean, California counts votes for a week and a half after the election. It's absurd amounts of time. Alaska has a good excuse. They're bringing ballot boxes down literally from the Arctic Circle, but no other state has this excuse, and this really should be cut off on Election Day. Thankfully, the Republicans won a lawsuit in Pennsylvania recently, this past week, that mail ballots dated after Election Day or not dated on or before Election Day won't be counted. And they shouldn't be counted. That's an invitation for fraud. Unfortunately, all of this is happening at a time when we've seen 5 years in a row of declining performance of the post office. So that's going to make things worse as well. There's very little discussion of that. You remember 4 years ago when the post office, then as everybody would have said under Trump, warned states, look, we can't meet your ballot turnaround times. At least we can't guarantee it. And the left went ape. They went absolutely ape. Well, now that it's Biden's post office, if you look at the data, they have gotten worse, much worse, not modestly worse, much worse. And you don't hear a word about it.
Well,
so
there was an article about that.
There was disruption there.
Yeah, no, there was an article that I read about it. Actually, the Chicago Tribune had it, and they said that state and local election officials from across the country warned of problems with the nation's mail delivery system that could disenfranchise voters. I mean,
that's true. That happened this week. You're right.
Yeah, and I've been told that essentially you could put a ballot into the mailbox, and it could literally go across state lines and back before it hit your election commission for counting.
That's absolutely true. The post office, in its long-term attempts to get better, is consolidating what they call mail centers. So Secretary of State for Kansas, Scott Schwab, has been hitting this hard there because they're doing exactly what you just described. All the mail is getting shipped out of Kansas even before a lot of it gets a date stamp, and that's a real problem because of how important those date stamps are. They get them in the mail centers in another state, and then they're sent back into Kansas. And Nevada has the same thing happening. This is happening in parts all over the country. Right in my home state of Virginia, in the last 6 years, since 2018, all of the registrars who've been working, that's what we call our directors of election, have noticed and have been warning their people that they can't rely on the post office anymore.
So, well, I mean, maybe that makes vote by mail become less attractive to voters when they figure this out.
It should be. It should be.
Yeah, I tell my people in my precinct, I want you to early vote. I want you to lock that vote in the first day of early voting. I want you to see that vote go through the tabulator. And then you're going to save the candidate a lot of time and money by them not having to contact you. Of course, this is my
and no one can use your name to vote for themselves.
That's right. That's right. Which we know happens. Speaking of people who are voting that should not be voting, though, apparently Texas removed 1 million ineligible voters from their voter rolls, including 6,500 non-citizens. How are we doing on this front to clean up the voter rolls?
So like so many questions about elections, the answer varies state by state because we don't have one election system. We have 51 election systems, all 50 states and the District of Columbia. And Texas is doing well. Virginia is doing reasonable. Nevada's doing horrible. Michigan's doing horrible. And it's not a coincidence that the states that have Democrat secretaries of state who fight to keep dead people on the voter rolls, to use the Michigan example, Jocelyn, whatever her name is, in Michigan, she's the worst in the country. But people in Nevada, nonprofit groups, not party groups, systematically identified people who have moved out of Nevada and presented those in the evidentiary form required in Nevada. And that Secretary of State secretly told the local heads of elections not to remove those folks from the voter rolls. Didn't tell the organization that was doing the cleanup work, but they found out anyway. And so we're seeing tremendous obstruction coming from the Soros secretaries of state, because he's put a lot of money into electing Democrat secretaries of state for 20 years so that they will do these things. This is not a mistake, folks. This is intentional.
Yes, because when you have dirty voter rolls, it invites fraud, and everybody knows that. So, yeah.
Makes it a lot easier to pull off.
It sure does. And I actually, I mean, when it comes right down to it, and this is sort of my problem I've been a precinct committeeman for 20 years, and I think they're the key to, first of all, turnout, and I think they're also the key to election integrity, because they have that voter list. 30 days prior to the election, they should go to the houses. And by the time you've been living in the neighborhood long enough, you know who lives there. You know which kids have graduated and moved on. You've got a good sense of where you need to go to find out if there are voters on the list that need to be removed. But they should be checking that. And then immediately after election, they should check the list of people who voted from their precinct and see if it matches up, see if it makes sense. I think that's just like one of the things. Unfortunately, in the state of Illinois, they clean up the voter list within 2 days of the election, and then they just say, oh, well, we were just doing list maintenance, and so, voters that have moved, we took off. Well, no, you have to give me an actual list of people who voted, and that we should know that cold, and they won't give it to us.
Yeah, so Illinois is, of course, a terrible state in these sorts of things. Michigan has been systematically making itself worse. The Democrats took over in the last election, and they have been systematically getting rid of every opportunity for transparency or accountability. For example, they got rid of auditing of elections. That's not legal in Michigan anymore. They have reduced observer rights. It's just one thing after another. They passed a referendum, and the left sold it as protecting voter ID. It got rid of voter ID. They flat out lied. The media never called them on it, and they eliminated voter ID. We're like the only modern country on the planet that doesn't require voter ID. And some of our states, of course, do, but only a minority of them at this point. And this has been one of the left's great successes, is to avoid voter ID and to turn it into something about race and so forth. But let me give you some data. So North Carolina had a 10-year fight over this. Voter ID was finally used in the midterms of 2022. About 2 million people voted statewide, and about 1,500 were turned away because they didn't have adequate ID. And the party breakdown was just about a third, meaning Democrat, Republican, and unregistered or nonpartisan, whatever they call it in North Carolina. There was no partisan advantage or disadvantage. There was no racial disparity. All of the left, just like when Georgia reformed their laws and the left went crazy, it was all a narrative lie. They're just telling a story. These people are so racist because the data, same thing happened in Georgia.
Hey, Ken, we got to leave it right there. I'm out of time, and I had a hard break. I want to thank you so much for joining me on The Real Story with Jeannie Ives. Thanks for the update.
Join John Anthony, host of Black and Right, for a cruise on Lake Michigan on Saturday, September 21st. Come aboard the luxury yacht Free Spirit for a fun afternoon with fellow AM 560 listeners. Enjoy great food and beverages and be a part of the live broadcast of Black and Right with John Anthony. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/cruise. That's 560theanswer.com/cruise. Sponsored in part by Opum Tax Advocates and attorney Stephen A. Leahy.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Ann Carrick. The FBI calls it an attempted assassination. The Secret Service spots a gun where former President Trump is playing golf and opens fire. Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw.
Fortunately, we were able to locate a witness that came to us and said, hey, I saw the guy running out of the bushes. He jumped into a black Nissan, and I took a picture of the vehicle and the tag. which was great.
Police tracked and apprehended the suspect, Ryan Wesley Routh. Former First Lady Melania Trump is still wondering about the previous assassination attempt.
Why didn't law enforcement officials arrest the shooter before the speech? There is definitely more to this story, and we need to uncover the truth.
The former president is safe. America's listening to Fox News.
This is Seth Lipson for townhall.com. In the 1970s, there was much talk that the presidency was too big for one man and that it had become increasingly difficult for a president to effect much change. The inauguration of Ronald Reagan in 1981 annulled that kind of talk. The new movie, Reagan, starring Dennis Quaid, shows the Gipper challenging our malaise, our fatalism, and the perceived inevitability of our decline. The movie takes a man of many parts and focuses on one aspect of his life, his driving conviction that tyranny must not breed and that freedom needs to be defended and nurtured, and then retaught again and again. Critics don't like the movie. They prefer cynicism and giving credit to the fall of the USSR to everyone but Reagan, who they spent a lifetime trying to destroy. But undeterred, Reagan pressed on, and the movie is loved by those who've seen it, for as Reagan knew, we are not a cynical people, and we do not want decline. For our history and our future, see Reagan.
Quick delivery service. What do you need delivered today?
Hi, I'm trying to work through a last-minute to-do list for my boss. Can you deliver a hard drive to the Loop in Chicago?
We can deliver that today.
Okay, can you deliver 20 boxes to a client in Rockford?
We can deliver that today.
Can you deliver 12 pallets of tile to our customer in Naperville?
We can deliver that today.
Can you deliver a large envelope to Northbrook?
We can deliver that today.
Oh my gosh, I think my water just broke. Can you...
We cannot deliver that.
Quick Delivery Service delivers your package no matter the size. More than just a messenger service, Quick Delivery Service is a messenger and trucking service that can also provide scheduled routes for your daily delivery or your air shipment. Trucks are equipped to handle the load and provide ground-level service for same-day delivery. The Quick Delivery Service team of safe, licensed professionals can provide quick door-to-door service for your special delivery. QuickDelivery.com. That's QuickDelivery.com. We deliver that today. But we don't deliver this.
I'm worried about Mom. She's having a tough time moving around the house.
Oh, I know. She still thinks she can do everything on her own.
Exactly, but I've been over there every day this week, helping her navigate the stairs, cooking meals, reminding her to take her medicine. I'm always nervous when I leave.
You know what? I admire you for taking care of Mom. But your family needs you too. And what if she slips and falls? A friend recommended the caregivers at Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. They service Cook, DuPage, Kane, and Will counties. They guarantee compatibility and they'll conduct a free safety assessment of her home. Plus, they'll provide as little or as much care as Mom needs.
Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest, offering both hourly and live-in care. Schedule a free assessment today by calling 331-281-0728. That's 331-281-0728. Again, that's 331-281-0728. And tell them AM 560 sent you. Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. Senior care, only better.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, doctors Economos, Gavalis, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidiscipline practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930, 630-830-4930, or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
We now return to The Real Story. Here's your host, Jeannie Ives.
All right, welcome back. It is The Real Story with Jeannie Ives. The phone number here is 312-642-5600. Happy to take your phone calls tonight. We've got a lot of different topics that we're discussing. And the next one is very interesting. And we're going to start out with a clip of Elise Stefanik, Congresswoman from New York, grilling former Governor Andrew Cuomo about his nursing home policy and what happened. Now, nobody likes to hear Andrew Cuomo in the hot seat more than somebody like me, because I think he's just so arrogant. But we're going to take a listen right here.
You, former governor, and your most senior aides made a deliberate decision to exclude certain COVID-19 related nursing home deaths to hide and undercount the actual mortality rate in nursing homes. And for the public, Governor Cuomo changed the methodology of counting nursing home fatalities to exclude out-of-facility deaths, to undercount those. I want to ask you, what period of time were you negotiating for your book deal?
Congresswoman, if there is a fact in what you said...
No, I'm asking you a question. I'm asking you a question. What dates did you negotiate for your book deal? That is the question before you today.
I'm answering a question that
No.
asked.
The question that I asked...
My testimony says, during that time, did you have any discussions with the executive chamber regarding the need for guidance?
That's not the testimony I'm referring to.
I recall.
Absolutely was the answer.
I recall.
Governor, absolutely. You're throwing your staff under the bus. You are culpable for this. My question to you is, when were you negotiating for your multi-million-dollar advance deal for your book as seniors were dying in nursing homes? That is the question in front of you.
Well, she let him have it, and she later on to say that he will never hold office again. Now we don't know if that's true or not. Apparently he's maybe even thinking about running for New York City mayor. Anyway, to discuss this in detail, because she's really been covering actually the nursing home situation in New York City and the hospital situations in New York City, is Jessica Hockett. She's got a PhD from the University of Virginia. She's an independent researcher focused on COVID events in early 2020. I actually know Jessica just as a mom from Wheaton who stood on the front lines to get our kids unmasked and to take it to the school board for their stupid policies during that time frame. But she's got all this other experience behind her as well. She spent more than 20 years in the K-12 education sector, first as a middle school teacher, then as a consultant to schools, agencies, and nonprofits, and online graduate instructor as well. She has numerous publications, including several books, Exam Schools, Inside America's Most Selective Public High Schools, Differentiation in the Elementary Grades, and Differentiation in Middle and High School. And by the way, she's so smart, but you know what? Our local school board won't even listen to her. It's just really depressing, these people. Anyway, she is most recently, though, she is a contributor to Fighting Goliath, exposing the flawed science and statistics behind the COVID-19 event. And she has been a contributor to this book. It is written by Norman Fenton and Martin Neal. And, I'm excited to dig into this book and maybe get one or two of the authors on to talk about this, because we can't forget what happened during COVID. Jessica hasn't. She's been researching it. And then, of course, this Cuomo grilling comes up. We're now 4 years past that time frame, over 4 years, really. And, Jessica, what's your take on what Cuomo said and what is the reality of what happened in New York at that time?
Thanks, Jeannie, for having me on. You know, I've been studying the New York City mass casualty event of spring 2020 for over 2 years now. I know a lot of people know me as like the anti-mask person or pro-mask choice person, but really this event has captivated me ever since spring of 2020. And it's entirely unexplained, and it is not explained by this nursing home policy. And I watched the charade, I would say, the hearing the other day, and I thought, we're not learning anything new here. And we have a bunch of legislators and Andrew Cuomo coming together under sort of a tacit agreement. And the tacit agreement is that this policy that allowed people to go into nursing homes, be discharged from a hospital without having to test negative, or I should say retest and come up negative before they go in, which I've got to say, I actually don't think that that's a bad policy. I don't think you should hold people hostage inside of a hospital until they come up negative. We already know about false positives on those tests. They were very, very generous on the positives that were coming up in the first place. So I'm actually not against the policy necessarily, but blaming the 27,000 extra people who are reported to have died in New York City on that nursing home policy, it does not jive with the data. The most deaths by far were in hospitals. The most COVID deaths by far are in hospitals. And I got to tell you something, we still do not know how many nursing home residents died in New York City hospitals, regardless of cause, or New York State hospitals for that matter. So that would be my challenge to that committee, Republicans and Democrats. Why aren't you asking for, why aren't you getting the actual data that will show us the biggest mass casualty event in a city hospital system ever in U.S. history? Instead, they're circling the wagons. They're focusing on this little bitty policy. And, you know, I'm not saying that New York City and a lot of states didn't mistreat, maltreat, non-treat nursing home residents. We know that they did. We know that Illinois did as well. But it's really the bigger crimes of maltreatment and neglect, keeping people out of hospitals, visitors out of hospitals, out of nursing homes. These things are being covered up with this focus on something that really has not been proven or shown to have caused the mass deaths in New York City.
Well, you know, you actually have been trying to FOIA data, and I think you've been stymied in some way, haven't you?
Yeah, I have been. I've had some pretty good success with a lot of the agencies, but I've also had them ignore me. I've had the New York City public hospital system. I asked for daily deaths occurring in their hospitals, all causes, back to 2017. They would only give me 2020. They said we don't have 2017 to 2019. It's like locked in a box, and we would have to create a new record to, you know, get it, a computer box that is. We would have to, you know, create a new record to get it for you. I've had to do a lot of work, a lot of pulling teeth just to get some basic information. I did get some good information from FEMA. The refrigerator trucks that they sent to New York City, those were not used to capacity as morgue trucks. They were severely under.
But we all saw the pictures of it.
I know.
We saw them
so
lined up there. That was like the headline photo day after day.
We had Donald Trump standing on the White House lawn talking about the refrigerator trucks. And so trucks were sent. There were also trucks that were used in the city. But overall, Jeannie, I haven't found what you would need to find to substantiate that this mass casualty event occurred, the equivalent of 10 World Trade Center disasters in casualties. That's what New York City says that they handled in 11 weeks. I'm not buying it, and I want, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but it's not substantiated. We have no names. We have no way to get death certificates. The medical examiner, unlike in Illinois, actually, and unlike in Chicago, the medical examiner in New York City is not accountable. You can't look up deaths in a medical examiner's database. It's really corrupt what's going on. And we have this focus on, you know, Cuomo. We know nothing's going to happen to him, right? He's going to get right back into the political game. That's the way this works. And then our elected officials can pretend that they did their due diligence and they did nothing of the kind.
Well, it is interesting because you write on your Substack, and this is your Substack. Oh, gosh, you just wrote it this week. You wrote it on Monday, September 9th, and it's Andrew Cuomo's testimony tomorrow. And you have charts and graphs in here, and I highly encourage people to sign up for your Substack. But you show the New York City hospital deaths, and you write, how is it possible, especially when all the trucks FEMA sent weren't used? You say that. Where are the nurses and doctors who can speak to the cataclysm? Who is producing the commemorative documentary? And then you show this like absolutely massive spike, you know, an extra 15,000 deaths. I mean, you're right. Nothing adds up here. So are we going to get to the bottom of this? I mean,
well, I mean, I'm doing my best for sure. I mean, people have to get mad about it. You know, no matter who wins the election, let's say Donald Trump wins the election, okay? Then, you know, he's a New Yorker. He was the president of the United States when this was going on. You know, some people tell me, well, he was fooled. He was duped. All right. Well, then he should order an inquiry into what happened. If for no other reason, even if this event did happen as presented, then let's learn from it. Right? What happened? Let's make a documentary about what happened in New York City hospitals, right? We should all be really, really interested in this. Let's see all the victims' names. Let's put them on a memorial, right? If New York City was struck by a virus bomb, well, yeah, we need to know more about that, right?
Okay.
Because it happened no place else in the United States like it happened in New York City.
So I have just about a minute left before I have to take a break. But talk to me about Fighting Goliath. What exactly is in here that people would be interested in reading?
Yeah,
I mean, it looks pretty
fantastic.
it looks like a hefty tome. It looks like almost an academic book. But what would the average person be fascinated about?
I think, well, it's divided into nice, discrete chapters where people can just use it as a reference book and go to that topic and say, okay, I'm really interested about the COVID shot, right? And they could just go and see what the authors say about that. But Norman and Martin, they have a Substack. It's Where Are the Numbers? And they started, they're statisticians at Queen Mary University in London, and they started documenting what was going on, just met with math, right? The stats of COVID in mid-March 2020. They had a pretty open mind, and just it chronicles sort of their journey in discovering that things were not adding up. The government narrative was not matching what the statistics were showing. There was a lot of hidden things, especially with the vaccination data, things that and they're more UK focused, but they bring in the US and other countries too. And it's fascinating, if nothing else, to see, okay, wow, like things were going on in the UK that were going on here as well. Like this is sort of suggestive of like a global operation or coordination that was going on. So they don't claim to have all the answers, but it's cool as a piece of scientific history as well. And I was honored to be able to contribute to 6 of the chapters that are in the book.
All right. Well, she's Jessica Hockett. Again, you need to check out her Substack. She's been digging into the numbers behind COVID, something that was monumental to the country, to the world, and something that we still do need a lot more research about. Go ahead and check out Fighting Goliath as well. Jessica, thank you so much for joining me on The Real Story with Jeannie Ives. And we will be right back.
Life takes a toll on our bodies. No way around it. Whether it's sitting hours on end at your computer or working a physical job, over time your body pays the price. There is, however, an effective way to turn back the clock on pain, Relief Factor. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor helps support your body's response to inflammation. The difference? Instead of masking pain, Relief Factor helps eliminate it for good. And it's 100% drug-free. If the pains that come with living a full life are affecting you, do as so many others have. Turn back the clock on pain with Relief Factor. Their 3-week quick start is just $19.95, less than $1 a day. When you feel good, it's amazing how much more you get out of life. So visit ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF. That's 1-800-4RELIEF. Try it for only $19.95. While we can't stop aging, not yet, we can stop pain. Turn back the clock with Relief Factor.
What a waste of time, money, and vacation days. Hi, Amy Jacobson here. And if you've had a bad knee or hip replacement surgery, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because sometimes the surgery doesn't even work. But there is an alternative, QC Kinetics. Check it out before you go under the knife. QC Kinetics uses your own body's properties to repair damaged joint tissue due to arthritis or an injury. Folks, it's regenerative medicine. Think about it. If you cut your hand, it eventually heals. But don't take my word for it. Find out for yourself with a free consultation. And what's really cool is the fact that Dr. Mitchell Scheinkup, the National Medical Director and former orthopedic surgeon, is located right here in the Chicago area. Call now to end your chronic pain and learn more about QC Kinetics. They have new locations in Gurnee and Crystal Lake. Saturday appointments available. The number to call is 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
This is Seth Lipson for townhall.com. In the 1970s, there was much talk that the presidency was too big for one man and that it had become increasingly difficult for a president to effect much change. The inauguration of Ronald Reagan in 1981 annulled that kind of talk. The new movie, Reagan, starring Dennis Quaid, shows the Gipper challenging our malaise, our fatalism, and the perceived inevitability of our decline. The movie takes a man of many parts and focuses on one aspect of his life, his driving conviction that tyranny must not breed and that freedom needs to be defended and nurtured, and then retaught again and again. Critics don't like the movie. They prefer cynicism and giving credit to the fall of the USSR to everyone but Reagan, who they spent a lifetime trying to destroy. But undeterred, Reagan pressed on, and the movie is loved by those who've seen it. For as Reagan knew, we are not a cynical people, and we do not want decline. For our history and our future, see Reagan.
If you own or run a business and you listen to AM 560, you might not realize that the conservative programming that you enjoy is supported by advertisers. Our loyal listeners love to do business with the advertisers they hear every day on AM 560. Now, it probably won't surprise you that there are some businesses who avoid advertising with us because they don't like what we do here. And that's okay, because our audience wants to support businesses that support what we do and think like we think. We would love to have you join the list of successful companies who are already reaching new, like-minded customers. Most AM 560 advertisers have been here for years for one simple reason: they get results. Join our efforts to make a difference in the lives of our listeners who are passionate about supporting our great family of AM 560 advertisers. To learn more, just visit 560theanswer.com/advertise. That's 560theanswer.com/advertise.
Now, more of The Real Story with your host, Jeannie Ives.
All right. Isn't Jessica great? Boy, she just knows her stuff. You can tell when somebody knows their stuff. Very fluent in everything that she was talking about. Okay, we're going to take a call here quick. We've got Eduardo in Tampa Bay. Eduardo, welcome to the program. Thanks for joining me on The Real Story.
Yeah, good evening for taking my call. And I was talking to somebody about this during the day. So there's a program where they were giving benefits, welfare to these migrants like Venezuelans and Haitians. It was temporarily stopped because they found fraud from the sponsors of these migrants, and then it was resumed. So maybe this is something that Congress can take a look at, because in a blue state like California, they cannot pass reparations for African Americans, but they're giving these welfare benefits to these migrants. But they're going to vote for Kamala Harris, so it's kind of hypocritical if they're still thinking about doing that.
Yeah, well, you know, that's all part of the vote harvesting deal. That's the gig that's going on there. So we have the same thing in Chicago. We have a lot of African Americans that are very upset about the support that the migrants are getting. By the way, we have nearly $1 billion going to non-citizen health care, and that health care that they're getting is much more beneficial than the Medicaid managed care that regular citizens are on. So you've got this problem here brewing in Chicago as well. But when it comes right down to it, and we hope that there's a little bit of a revolt in the Black community. We hope that they realize that they've been a toy of the Democrat Party for a long time. They've been given lip service for their needs, and we hope that that's the case. But you know what? The bottom line is, though, somebody goes to their house, somebody gets them to vote, somebody brings them to the voting place, somebody kind of tells them how to vote, and if they're not really, and there's a lot of folks that I've met that they're on the ball. They understand how bad it is now, and they understand who is not sticking up for them. There are quite a few of them in the Black community that finally they have a choice, and they have figured that out.
Right.
And there's quite a few that just, they're listening to whoever's in front of them, and now Taylor Swift endorsed her, so hey, everything's good, right?
Right.
So,
okay, thank you for taking my call.
Well,
yeah, good
no,
work.
thank you a lot, Eduardo. I appreciate that. Okay, speaking of Kamala Harris, I mean, it was that debate, by the way, on style. Of course, a lot of folks are saying she won, and she definitely was smooth. She regurgitated her planned responses. It didn't matter what the question was. If the topic was anywhere within the realm of her canned response, that's the response that she gave, and she gave it smoothly. Okay. But she did not answer the question, and it was 3-on-1, and it was unfair. And the polls are the same as they were before, so it didn't make a difference. And unfortunately, Donald Trump missed a lot of opportunities. But let's take a listen at this one clip. This is the first question of the first debate and probably the most important question to most Americans.
When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people, and that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support, to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy.
Okay, that is all just garbage. I've heard enough. I mean, first of all, she did not answer the question. The question was, do you feel like you're better off now than you were 4 years ago? She never answered the question. And obviously, she's putting out all these solutions, all these things, all these needs. People need $6,000 more for their child. They need $50,000 more for their small business. So the answer is, Kamala, they're worse off. They are much worse off. And that's the truth. And by the way, when it comes to small businesses, I mean, I looked it up. The National Federation of Independent Businesses, they also rank all the votes in Congress. And there were a total of, there were 2 Democrats, Congress folks, 2 that scored over 50%, Cuellar from Texas and Golden from Maine. And there were another 4 that scored 50% on the NFIB small business rating. Another 4. That's it. So, sorry, Democrats, you're failing small businesses and you're in charge, Kamala. You didn't do anything for small businesses. It was just one lie after another from her. Just crazy. She just completely lied. And she didn't answer the question. By the way, the other thing is she did not grow up middle class. She did not. Her father was a PhD. Her mother was a academic researcher as well. She lived in a very, very wealthy enclave in Canada during her middle school and high school years. That's how she grew up. So this is a total joke. She's a joke. She lied. And you know what? At the end of the day, the debate, you know, she didn't move the needle on the debate at all. Not at all. But in the meantime, Governor Walz, from Minnesota, guess what? He wants to meet you in the produce aisle. You cannot make this up.
This thing's going to be a battle for the next 52 days. It's going to be in rooms, just like this. It's going to be one door-to-door, call-to-call, $5 donation, trying to have that hard conversation in the produce aisle with the person you saw there at the grocery store and ask, have you voted yet?
We'll be right back with Charles Lipson. You're not going to want to miss this. This is The Real Story with Jeannie Ives.
Certified financial planning professional Tim Stearns discusses taxes in retirement.
Most people are paying more in taxes and keeping less of their money to live and do what they enjoy. That's why we've put out the retirement tax bill calculator online. You can see with your own eyes just how much you might be overpaying. It's a valuable tool, $500 value, but we made it free for you to view and run your own numbers at mvpcfp.com. That's mvpcfp.com.
To run your retirement tax bill calculator, go to mvpcfp.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Cornerstone Securities, LLC.
Dennis Prager here. Join me on an unforgettable cruise to the Caribbean this November. We'll cruise to the vibrant islands of Half Moon Cay, Curacao, Bonaire, Turks and Caicos, and much more. We'll be joined by special guest Sean McDowell, and we'll both be sharing insights into current events in a way I hope energizes and challenges you. Secure your spot before space runs out by calling 855-565-5519 or book online at pragercruise.com.
News, opinion, insight. This is AM 560, The Answer. WIND, Chicago. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM 560 mobile app, or tell your smart speaker to play The Answer Chicago.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Ann Carrick. The FBI calls it another attempted assassination of former President Trump as he played golf in Florida. Fox's Lucas Tomlinson at the White House.
At 1:30 p.m., that was the first report of shots fired by the Secret Service in Trump International Golf Club. We're told that a Secret Service advance team, one agent was one hole ahead of where the president was playing. He saw the muzzle, peeking through the chain link fence, and that Secret Service agent immediately opened fire. The suspect jumped out of the bushes and into a black Nissan. When the Secret Service went to the scene, they found an AK-47 rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks that had ceramic tiles, which indicated that this suspect was preparing to get in a shootout potentially. There was also a GoPro camera recovered, which indicates the suspect wanted to film this attempted assassination.
The former president is safe. A witness saw the suspect and got a license plate for police. Ryan Wesley Routh is in custody. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump both targeting the swing states.
This week, Vice President Kamala Harris is targeting blue wall states with stops in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Harris, who's faced criticism for not doing more sit-down interviews, is doing a fireside chat hosted by the National Association of Black Journalists in Philadelphia on Tuesday. On Saturday, Harris spoke at a dinner hosted by the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. Trump, meantime, met with the Las Vegas Police Protective Association, the largest law enforcement association in Nevada. The group has endorsed him. As Trump met with police, J.D. Vance was in Greenville, North Carolina, where he attended East Carolina University's football game against Appalachian State.
Fox's Madeline Rivera. The election now less than 2 months away. America is listening to Fox News.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Tonight, partly cloudy with a low of 65. Tomorrow, sunshine and very warm. We'll see a high of 89. Tomorrow night, clear with low of 63. Tuesday, very warm with sunshine and a few clouds. High 84. Tuesday night, a moonlit sky and a low of 62. Wednesday, sunny and warm. We'll see a high of 82. I'm Jillian Ford on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
The American military brings together brave men and women from across the country who have chosen to answer the call when their country needs them most. At aviatorfuel.com, we know the military because we live the military life. With books written by a Navy pilot and run by a hard-working military spouse, aviatorfuel.com is proud of our service and our country. That's why we never compromise on authenticity. Our cocktail books are modeled off the real Army, Navy, and Marine pilot checklists that military aviators have used for decades. But instead of a procedure on how to handle an engine fire, you'll find the procedure for how to make a mojito. From classic recipes to military specials like the Queen of Battle or the Afterburner, our cocktail books have something special for every veteran. So go to aviatorfuel.com and get ready to raise a glass to the brave men and women who serve our country. That's aviatorfuel.com.
Attention parents, your child may be eligible for extra food benefits this summer thanks to a new program. The Summer EBT program will provide $120 per eligible child for families to buy groceries when school is out. These benefits are in addition to free summer meals available at schools, camps, and parks. To learn more about Summer EBT and if your child qualifies, please visit WeGotYouIllinois.org. Sponsored by the Illinois Commission to End Hunger, aired in cooperation with this station and the Illinois Broadcasters Association.
Quick delivery service. What do you need delivered today?
Hi, I'm trying to work through a last-minute to-do list for my boss. Can you deliver a hard drive to the Loop in Chicago?
We can deliver that today.
Okay, can you deliver 20 boxes to a client in Rockford?
We can deliver that today.
Can you deliver 12 pallets of tile to our customer in Naperville?
We can deliver that today.
Can you deliver a large envelope to Northbrook?
We can deliver that today.
Oh my gosh, I think my water just broke. Can you...
We cannot deliver that.
Quick Delivery Service delivers your package no matter the size. More than just a messenger service, Quick Delivery Service is a messenger and trucking service that can also provide scheduled routes for your daily delivery or your air shipment. Trucks are equipped to handle the load and provide ground-level service for same-day delivery. The Quick Delivery Service team of safe, licensed professionals can provide quick door-to-door service for your special delivery. QuickDelivery.com. That's QuickDelivery.com. We deliver that today. But we don't deliver this.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
AM 560, The Answer. The real story with Jeannie Ives continues on AM 560, The Answer.
And welcome to my second hour this Sunday night. Thanks for being with me. The phone number here, 312-642-5600. On Saturday night, as I mentioned previously, I was at that Heartland Institute 40th anniversary dinner. And one of the additional guests who got up and spoke, and he spoke so well, I wish everybody had heard his entire speech, was Jay Bhattacharya. Of course, he's the Stanford professor, a physician, epidemiologist, health economist, and public health policy expert. And, of course, he was shut down and censored. Censored during the COVID-19 crisis because apparently they don't think that he knew anything. Him, Dr. Sunetra Gupta, Dr. Martin Kulldorff, of course, wrote the Great Barrington Declaration. They put it out on October 4th, 2020, and immediately it was also somewhat censored. Nobody wanted to hear from him. And he sees this as a huge threat. He's not wrong. And by the way, the censorship industrial complex has not gone away. It's probably gotten worse. But I want you to, if you're listening, roll up the windows. If you're in your car, I want you to turn up the volume a little bit because I knew Dr. Bhattacharya was going to say some important stuff. So I taped his part of his speech, and I wanted to hear you to hear this clip. I mean, this is an epidemiologist. This is somebody who knows health, and he chose to speak about this from the podium Saturday night.
Let me quote from a speech given in 1946 in Fulton, Missouri. Churchill just lost the prime ministership of the UK, and he was invited by President Harry Truman to come give a speech. Here's the speech. Here's part of it. From Scotland in the Baltic to Trieste in the Adriatic, an iron curtain has descended across the continent. The bad news I wanted to deliver today is that we are now in the middle of a silicon curtain of censorship descending across the previously free West. From Sydney in the South Pacific to Surrey in the UK, from Saskatoon in Canada to Seattle in the US, governments are cracking down on free speech on the internet, using the excuse of hate or the suppression of misinformation, with the goal essentially of preventing effective speech against government misinformation. We are in a dire time for free speech in the United States, in Canada, in the UK, in Australia, in Europe, everywhere around the world, where previously there were a deep commitment to free speech rights, what we're seeing is a rescission of those rights. It turns out that COVID was not an anomaly, that in fact, it was really the problem that we had during COVID is that free speech rights, which we normally would have taken for granted in the US, I know I certainly did, were impossible to exercise. And as a result, it took courage to fight back against the COVID authoritarian regime. Courage that should never have been required. Our university systems are set up to allow people to speak their minds. Our country is built on a platform, a foundation of deep respect for free speech. And yet, during the pandemic, what we saw was that it was almost impossible to exercise that speech.
Well, joining me now, one of my favorite guests is Charles Lipson. He's the professor emeritus at the University of Chicago. He writes regularly for The Spectator magazine, Real Clear Politics, and others. His columns are available free at charleslipson.com. He's the author of the first book for students on their free speech rights. It's called Free Speech 101, a guide for students, and it's available on Amazon. I picked up that book. He also has another one out called Academic Honesty 101 in the Age of AI. Charles, so what do you think what's your response to Dr. Bhattacharya's comments? Are we at the silicon curtain of censorship in America?
It's so interesting. First of all, that was very interesting, a little hard to hear, but what he's saying is absolutely right. There is, and it's worse than just the fact that you have, in effect, left-wing people running the algorithms and monitoring and all the rest. they're cooperating with U.S. government officials who are putting extreme pressure on them to censor things that those government officials don't want out. Of course, this is just the opposite of what the First Amendment ought to mean. That's all on the one hand. On the other hand, and you have a big movement on college campuses that's led by progressives that basically believes that free speech is a problem and that they want to shut down speech that they disagree with. So there are those two very different but overlapping foundations of opposition to free speech. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, my sense, first of all, the protections for the for U.S. citizens for free speech are the greatest of any country in the world. They are just dreadful. In Canada, in Britain, in most of Europe, these are democracies, but there's very little protection for free speech. We have a lot more of it. And my sense is that at long last, you can see that universities are beginning to turn the tide on this. They can see the damage that DEI and this kind of progressive regime of suppression of alternative viewpoints has wrought on higher education.
Well, your book's very timely, wouldn't you say, given everything that's happened that you've seen at Columbia, Northwestern, when it comes down to shutting down the speech of Jewish students, when you had the Duke frat boys, go ahead and stand up for their rights as well. I mean, speech is speech, but it's also action in many ways. That's a form of speech. And so why is your book is obviously necessary. Were you planning on writing this, or what prompted you to write this?
Well, I've been pretty actively involved in free speech issues, both at the University of Chicago and nationally. And I looked, and I read a lot about free speech. And then I noticed that it talks about students, but none of it is directed to students. And really, a lot of it ought to be directed at administrators, because what people who are not on campus may not understand is that not only are the professors in the humanities, by humanities I mean the English department and French literature and so forth, not only are they very far to the left, but a lot of the campus administrators are too. What people do understand is that there are a lot more administrators on campus than 30, 40 years ago. But what they may not understand is that those administrators have a lot of power over students and tend to exercise it in ways that reinforce their own progressive values rather than free speech.
So your book, it's perfectly written for a student. It's in consumable bites where it literally takes them through, hey, if you experience this, if you think there might be some speech that might be trigger you, how do you approach a teacher on that? What's the rationale for free speech? It's very, very good. I thought was one thing that was very interesting is you talked about the hidden costs of an activist university. And you talked about their confirmation bias as well that you find on universities. And then can you name some of these activist universities? Because you suggest that there are definitely universities that have that bent. I mean, obviously Columbia would be one, I would say.
Absolutely. But the best way to understand the universities that suppress free speech, and they all suppress it from the left, almost all. There are a few religiously oriented universities that not only suppress speech that is antithetical to their religious beliefs, they have an absolute right to do that. That they're in business in order to perpetuate their religious faith. But if you look at the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, FIRE, they put out an annual list of schools and how they rank on free speech. And basically all the Ivy League schools rank at the very bottom. Harvard, Yale, Penn, Cornell, and these are places that we used to think of as thought leaders. Maybe they still are, unfortunately. And I say that as somebody who has degrees, multiple degrees, from these universities. But I'm happy to say the University of Chicago is much better. Northwestern is not. Northwestern has not defended students' speech rights. And you hear sometimes about Jewish students, but as it's often said, Jews are often just the canary in the coal mine. It's not just that their rights are being suppressed. It's that they're very visible reminders of the suppression of anybody who supports views that these progressives don't like.
Yeah, no, it's very concerning. I mean, you would think that the First Amendment would be enough, but it obviously isn't. And in fact, if you don't practice free speech, if you don't actually have the courage to speak, then you're silencing yourself, and that's a problem too. Americans need a big dose of courage. Real quickly before we go to break here, your academic honesty 101 in the age of AI. Now, this is really important. I mean, I went to West Point. We had an honor code. You don't lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those that do. And I mean, and a lot of the cheating was, academic cheating. And sure enough, West Point just went through a huge academic cheating scandal in 2020. And back in the day, boy, it was almost automatic dismissal. And they've really, to the chagrin of many alumni, they have lessened the standard in terms of if you're caught cheating, that they will give you a look back. A give back. They'll take you through some more counseling. I know that you don't expect the same rigor from other universities, but I do believe from just my own children's experience at university that cheating's an issue.
It's a big issue, and it's harder to catch now. In the old days, what cheating meant was that you borrowed a paper from somebody or you bought it online. Those were relatively easily checked. But if you use AI, whatever AI creates for you is original. You and I could put in the same prompt and we would get different papers back. And then if we put the same prompt in tomorrow, we would get a different paper. So it's very hard to catch. And the problem is it's not just a problem of catching cheaters. It's the whole point of higher education is both to instill character and to educate. And both of those are being violated, and it is really sad to hear what's happened, not just with this instance, but at the service academies more generally.
So, Charles, would you mind if we took a short break? I wanted to come back to you, and we didn't talking about this, but just get your reaction to the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump, and then also you wrote that piece saying, that Kamala Harris clearly won the debate. However, the polls didn't really show that. So if you don't mind, we'll take a short break and be right back.
Glad to talk with you again.
Great. Thank you.
Make sure that you never miss a day of Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson when you subscribe to the Chicago's Morning Answer podcast, presented by Signature Bank. Listen to the entire show each day on demand with limited commercial breaks. You can subscribe today for free at 560theanswer.com and click on podcasts or search for Chicago's Morning Answer on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
If your approach to everyday aches and pains is to mask them, feel better for a few hours only to have the pain return and then repeat the cycle all over again, it's time to try Relief Factor. And the good news is Relief Factor makes that easy. Their 3-week quick start is just $19.95, less than $1 a day. Instead of masking pain, Relief Factor helps eliminate it. How? Well, its unique formula of ingredients helps support your body's response to inflammation. Relief Factor was developed by doctors. It's 100% drug-free, and for so many people, the results are game-changing. even life-changing. So give it a try. Right now, their 3-week quick start is just $19.95. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF. That's 1-800-4RELIEF. See how in a few weeks or even days, Relief Factor can reduce your pain. When you feel better, life is just better. So don't mask pain. Fight it naturally with Relief Factor.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated in the best hearing aids of 2024 by USA Today, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, just $189.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 500,000 happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
They say to make yourself indispensable at work, so I developed a digital catering solution that only I can operate. Okay, it's actually EasyCater.com.
David!
They love me, because I, the director of catering logistics, not a real job, use EasyCater to get catering from all our favorite restaurants. Tight budget? No problem. Need vegetarian options? Gluten-free? Check and check.
D-Man, you crushed lunch today.
It was easy. EasyCater.
EasyCater is your all-in-one tech platform for ordering food for work. Start your order at EasyCater.com.
I'm worried about Mom. She's having a tough time moving around the house.
Oh, I know. She still thinks she can do everything on her own.
Exactly, but I've been over there every day this week, helping her navigate the stairs, cooking meals, reminding her to take her medicine. I'm always nervous when I leave.
You know what? I admire you for taking care of Mom. But your family needs you too. And what if she slips and falls? A friend recommended the caregivers at Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. They service Cook, DuPage, Kane, and Will counties. They guarantee compatibility and they'll conduct a free safety assessment of her home. Plus, they'll provide as little or as much care as Mom needs.
Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest, offering both hourly and live-in care. Schedule a free assessment today by calling 331-281-0728. That's 331-281-0728. Again, that's 331-281-0728. And tell them AM 560 sent you. Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. Senior care, only better.
You're listening to The Real Story with your host, Jeannie Ives.
Welcome back. And still on the line with me is Charles Lipson. And I just wanted to follow up with a couple important things that happened this week. I did want you in on your books. I'm so happy that you wrote those books. They're great tools for students in college. But let's talk also about the debate, the Trump-Harris debate. You wrote extensively about it. What do you think now, post-debate, like 4 days afterwards?
I think it's like blowing bubbles. They just sort of evaporate into the air after a few feet. I don't think it makes much difference. I think two things, though, have lasted, for, two or three things. The first, I'm old enough to remember a doll called the Chatty Cathy doll. Chatty Patty. Patty. Mm-hmm. You pulled a string, and it would repeat these formulaic sayings. And I just felt like that was Donald Trump. He just went through. It wasn't just that they got under his skin. He sounded the same during the Elon Musk interview. He needs to focus on the 3 or 4 big issues that favor him, which are immigration, crime, inflation, the economy, and his attack ought to be essentially on the poor performance of the Biden-Harris administration. The key is, are you better off now than you were when I was president? And I think he wins on all of that. I think what we know now, it's coming through even more clearly, is how bad the interviewers for ABC were. It was biased and obvious at the time, but there's more coming out that there may have been behind-the-scenes agreements not to ask certain questions and so forth. I don't know whether that's true or not. The final thing is that Kamala Harris, if I had to make an analogy, it would be to one of those Fabergé eggs. They're all painted up on the outside, but there's nothing inside. They're just completely empty. And that's exactly what she is. She's ambitious. She's climbed to the top of the greasy pole with almost no success since she left California. She name something successful she did in the Senate. Name anything she did successfully as vice president. You can't. So she is just essentially running on the fact that that many people dislike Trump, and that she appeals to a lot of people on identity politics grounds.
Well, I agree completely with that analysis, but I would also say that she sounded like the Chatty Cathy doll too, or I don't know if you remember the thing, you spin it to the particular animal and you hear the sound that they make, right? Okay, that toy too. I mean, it's the same thing. She sounded like, if it was anything on the economy, here's my canned response. If it's anything on, whatever. Yeah.
That's why follow-up would have been important, and they didn't do it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you saw that interview that she did in the last day or two where they asked her, what were your concrete policies on the economy, I think it was. And she started off, I was raised in a middle-class family. I mean, geez whiz. I mean, it's like she has a few memorized responses, and she gives them. But the fact is, Americans don't want a surprise package wrapped up under the Christmas tree as their president, because they don't know what's in it.
Oh, that's true. Look, on that note, our cultural writer, Lori Higgins at breakthrough-ideas.com actually did a whole comparison, CNN interview, ABC debate, and 6 ABC in Philadelphia. And she took excerpts of all those, and they're just canned responses. That said, I mean, Trump did not do well either. But moving on to Trump, he missed so many opportunities to just skewer her. And by the way, where was the comment about student loan bailouts? I mean, I'm still pissed off that they wanted me to pay for somebody else's student loan. I think that it irritates almost everybody. On the Trump deal, though, what's your take on this second assassination attempt? Where's it coming from? Is it just a copycat, deranged individual, or what's going on?
I think we just don't know. Mm-hmm. We do know that he's donated exclusively to Democrats. We don't know if he's just crazy, if he wanted the publicity. We do know that the way that the government protects one of the two people who could be elected president is insufficient. The people who were on the golf course and protecting him did a magnificent job. But the fact is, if that had been Joe Biden wandering aimlessly on the golf course, the whole surrounding area would have been out of limits for anyone to enter. We need both candidates to be fully protected. My sense, and again, I think Trump has dropped the ball on this. The Democratic Party is the party of government. The government has not performed very well over the last 4 or 5 years, has it? I mean, these are basic bureaucracies, the CDC, Fauci. They just completely blew the COVID response. Well, maybe not completely blew it, but they blew most of it. The Secret Service, right, decided that the best thing to do would be DEI hiring.
Right.
The people who are in charge of the border have essentially thrown it wide open and then lied about it continually. Yeah. But the best thing I've read on this assassination attempt is that MSNBC has said that the real issue is that Trump needs to tone down the rhetoric.
All right, we got to leave it right there. Charles, thank you so much for joining me.
Good to talk to you, Jeannie.
All right.
Of the first commercial radio broadcast. We're still here, and we're bigger and better than ever. You can still listen to us over this great radio station. But now, there are no limitations. Your smartphone is now your smart radio. Listen to us online, on the app, TuneIn.com, iHeartRadio, and Odyssey.com. Your smart speaker can find us too. With radio, there is no separation anxiety. We're always on. AM 560, The Answer.
News. I'm Kathleen Maloney. Secret Service agents opened fire after seeing a person with a firearm near former President Trump's West Palm Beach Golf Club while he was golfing today.
The suspect, who was found hiding in the bushes with a clear line of sight of the golf holes, jumped out of the bushes and into a black Nissan, and a witness reported the car and the license plate to the police.
The FBI investigating this as an apparent assassination attempt. Reaction from Republican Congressman Michael Walsh.
When you have this narrative coming from the left, from media, from elected officials even, that Trump has to be stopped by any means necessary, it shouldn't surprise anyone that these people are being radicalized and taking action like this.
President Biden says he's relieved the former president is unharmed. America is listening to Fox News.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, doctors Economos, Gave Alice, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidiscipline practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930, 630-830-4930, or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
If you own or run a business and you listen to AM 560, you might not realize that the conservative programming that you enjoy is supported by advertisers. Our loyal listeners love to do business with the advertisers they hear every day on AM 560. Now, it probably won't surprise you that there are some businesses who avoid advertising with us because they don't like what we do here. And that's okay, because our audience wants to support businesses that support what we do and think like we think. We would love to have you join the list of successful companies who are already reaching new, like-minded customers. Most AM 560 advertisers have been here for years for one simple reason: they get results. Join our efforts to make a difference in the lives of our listeners who are passionate about supporting our great family of AM 560 advertisers. To learn more, just visit 560theanswer.com/advertise. That's 560theanswer.com/advertise.
It's Reveille. Folks who grew up in the 1980s will enjoy the Dennis Quaid movie Reagan that chronicles much of President Reagan's life. There are a number of poignant moments in the movie, including his recognition that God had a purpose for his life. Another moment was his decision to run for the presidency in 1980 after having lost the Republican nomination at the 1976 convention to Gerald Ford. Seeing how President Carter further destabilized the economy and America's stature in the world, Reagan threw his hat back in the ring. Still another moment was his decision to take on the Soviet Union and call their bluff in the arms race. Reagan's leadership, instincts, and strategic alliances with Thatcher and Pope John Paul won the Cold War. Until the wall fell in November of 1989, American and European children could see communism firsthand. They could cross through Checkpoint Charlie, visit East Berlin, and feel the intimidation and fear of a government that silences her people. Most Americans can't experience that type of tyranny, but Americans have experienced soft tyranny from U.S. institutions. Many have been silenced by government, social media companies, and oppressive DEI cultures at work and in schools. Jewish students feel threatened and unprotected on campuses. Certain neighborhoods have become virtual no-go areas due to crime. And the DOJ has gone after parents, Catholics, and Trump. As Ronald Reagan said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same, or we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States when men were free. What are you going to do to preserve freedom? I'm Jeannie Ives. To learn more, listen to my radio show on Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. and sign up for my newsletter at breakthrough-ideas.com.
We now return to the real story. Here's your host, Jeannie Ives.
All right. Oh, did you guys get it? Did you like the bumper music that George picked out for the Watchdogs? Who's watching? Ah, they are. Yeah, perfect, George. I love it. You're the best. All right, and with that, it is time for my Edgar County Watchdogs to join me on this radio show. They always have great stories, and wow, Kirk Allen, you have a couple doozies that you sent me to discuss tonight. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. And by the way, it does feel like we're doing all the a bunch of free speech stuff tonight. You just heard my reveille that was about free speech. We did some Nigel Farage clips that was about free speech. We talked to Charles Lipson, that's about free speech. Boy, if we don't exercise our free speech, we will lose it. If we don't hold journalists accountable, we will lose any sense of what the truth is. And so, Kirk, let's just start right there. You have this article, Same Court Hearing, Different Reporting, Facts versus Misinformation. Tell the audience what is going on with this particular article.
Well, the Shelbyville Eagle is a local paper, Shelbyville, Illinois. They're actually owned out of an organization up in Schaumburg, so they're out of Cook County. But they ran a front page story on a court case. It was basically the state's attorney had subpoenaed the county chairman for copies of the audit, the draft audit, and they also subpoenaed the accounting firm, which was Benford, Brown and Associates. You may recall Alicia Benford.
Yes. She's a
so
friend of mine.
It goes to court, and the paper published Saturday, and we're reading it, and every single statement of fact in the paper was wrong. The title was wrong. I mean, every assertion it's like, what room were they in? They obviously couldn't have been in the courtroom we were in, and we actually ordered the transcript, as evidence to support what we wrote. I have never seen such pathetic reporting in my entire life.
So who's this Chicago-based newspaper? Who's writing this?
The Shelbyville Eagle. Sharon Barraclaw is the reporter. She's a local in Shelbyville. She's part of the long-established Shelbyville group. Never publishes anything of any real controversy, and always supports what we call the cabal. It's really unfortunate. I mean, she's a nice gal. I used to sit next to her in most of the county board meetings, but she hadn't showed up to any in quite a few months now. But this particular, reporting, it was so skewed. I mean, I don't even know where to start, Jeannie. We've never seen anything so bad on it. That's why we did a video cast on it. There's no excuse for it. And we asked the paper for comment, and they have, to this day, they have not responded to us. They've not run a correction. I mean, it's just amazing when you read it.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's kind of no different than what you saw in the ABC debate, Harris versus Trump. And I know I'm bringing in a national topic, but one of my readers, because I did talk about that debate in my newsletter this week, and in fact, you can sign up for my newsletter at breakthrough-ideas.com. But one of my readers sent back to me. He said, "Look, you know what? Everybody agrees that the ABC moderators were biased, and they make themselves out to be journalists. But there was no doubt. Nobody disagrees. You even have Mark Penn, former Democrat political consultant, wanting a full investigation as to whether or not there was something more to the gang up on President Trump, like if it was coordinated. And, who knows? I mean, Donna Brazile, who famously gave Hillary Clinton the debate questions ahead of time in the 2016 debate against Trump, she now works for ABC. Now, I am not alleging that she did anything, but certainly it's happened before, where the moderators have coordinated with the candidate to give her the order or whatever else. And I bring that up because this particular reader said, look, if ABC was so obviously slanted in that debate, and what do you think they've been doing for the last, I don't know, decade? What do you think David Muir's been doing? What about Lindsay Davis? How do you think that they've been reporting for a decade to their listeners? It's a really good point.
That's the problem. People aren't fact-checking the reporting that's out there. And, I mean, this entire article, I would argue that it's clearly political because they make all kinds of assertions about the county board chairman, you know, giving us records, and the chairman received a FOIA request, the chairman this, the chairman that. Well, all of that was false. Oh, but the chairman is up for election in November, and they want the locals want him out because he's one of the few that's actually done, you know, pretty darn good job of holding them accountable and following the law. So the whole focus and the whole narrative was to make him look bad. And I mean, when journalists start doing that and they dive into the politics, like you said, they're not journalism. They're out there reporting something with an agenda, and it's really destructive. I mean, it does a lot more damage than they realize. It tears a community apart.
So you had the massive Fox defamation case against Dominion. They paid out, what, $700 and some million for apparent defamation. You've got this journalist, obviously much smaller potatoes, but obviously getting the entire story wrong. Who knows whether or not, anybody would, charge her with defamation and actually sue over it, and it would go anywhere. I mean, who knows? But the truth of the matter is that you and John have been sued for such. You and John are still in a 10-year court battle from a COD article that you wrote that was 100% correct, 100% true. And you've been paying a lawyer for 10 years. This has been a 10-year fight, people. You don't think John and Kirk watch every single word, and even did back then, of what they print, and fact check it and make sure that the content is absolutely accurate? 100% of the time they do. You can read the Edgar County Watchdogs and know what you're reading is the truth. And that's what's so shameful about this. And that's what's even further injurious here, is the fact that she's so nonchalant, this reporter, about the words that she uses, the titles that she uses, the actions that were taken, so nonchalant about not telling people exactly what went on. And you know for damn sure the minute you step out of line, somebody's going to sue your ass.
Right. And heck, like you mentioned with COD, we didn't even step out of line. We published 100% truth.
100% it is.
And it doesn't stop people with an agenda that are going to try to shut you up. And that's what a lot of these organizations do when they, do file suits. The whole goal is to shut them up. I mean, look at Garrett with the Marco Polo project.
Yep, Garrett Ziegler's being sued for $2 million. Mm-hmm.
Right. Did he publish anything that wasn't true?
No.
No, he published 100% truth, but the goal is to shut him up, and if they have the resources, that's what they will do. He didn't do anything wrong. We all know that.
Yep. I know. You guys have paid out tens of thousands of dollars, 100,000 maybe, for this lawsuit. It's outrageous. I'm probably not even there.
Hundreds of
thousands of dollars for this lawsuit. And she wanted the deep pockets.
Pretty ironic.
And the damn lady wanted the deep pockets of Adam Andrzejewski, who just died. That's what she included him in the lawsuit. He got kicked out just a couple months ago. I went to that hearing in DuPage County Courthouse. But they were going to appeal him not being a part of that because they wanted his deep pockets. These people are sick, disgusting people.
Well,
sick.
And even the judicial system is exposed in that whole issue.
Absolutely,
There's
are.
not one shred of evidence. They claimed that he was part of a conspiracy. It took 9 years of litigation and discovery for the judge to say, I don't see anything here. Well, we said there wasn't anything there 8 years ago. And the evidence proved there wasn't anything 8 years ago, but the courts allowed this to continue every time the other side asked for a continuance. It didn't matter how much we object. Nope, we're gonna drag it out. We're gonna drag it out.
Well, I think the courts wanted to silence you too. I'm going to be honest with you. I think there's other things going on. That's my
the College
feeling.
of DuPage, Yeah, when that whole thing broke loose, it upset the entire establishment in DuPage County. You know that.
Oh, I know more than I care to, actually. Okay, you know what? I could talk to you all night about this, but we have to take a short break, and we'll be right back with John's stories, and we'll hold your other ones, Kirk, for next week. Okay.
You bet.
Okay, we'll be right back.
You've heard Rumpke's Garage commercials on AM 560, and now they specialize in servicing Sprinters and light-duty diesels. But the experts at Rumpke's also service Isuzu and Chevy low-cab forward trucks. So if you own an Isuzu or Chevy low-cab forward truck but aren't sure where to get it repaired, take it to Rumpke's Garage, your #1 dealer alternative for repairs to your Isuzu NPR, Isuzu F-Series, or Chevy low-cab forward truck. Whether gas or diesel, your truck is the lifeline of your business. That's why Rumpke's Garage offers free loaners while your truck is being serviced. They'll even pick up and deliver for your convenience. Rumpke's Garage has the factory scan tool to properly diagnose Isuzu and Chevy low-cab forward trucks. Their commitment to your business is backed with a complimentary maintenance plan and free 2-year warranty. Go to Rumpke'sGarage.com to learn more about their specialization in Isuzu and Chevy low-cab forward trucks and schedule your appointment today. That's Rumpke's, REMKES, Garage.com.
This is Seth Lipson for Townhall.com. In the 1970s, there was much talk that the presidency was too big for one man and that it had become increasingly difficult for a president to effect much change. The inauguration of Ronald Reagan in 1981 annulled that kind of talk. The new movie, Reagan, starring Dennis Quaid, shows the Gipper challenging our malaise, our fatalism, and the perceived inevitability of our decline. The movie takes a man of many parts and focuses on one aspect of his life, his driving conviction that tyranny must not breed and that freedom needs to be defended and nurtured, and then retaught again and again. Critics don't like the movie. They prefer cynicism and giving credit to the fall of the USSR to everyone but Reagan, who they spent a lifetime trying to destroy. But undeterred, Reagan pressed on, and the movie is loved by those who've seen it. For as Reagan knew, we are not a cynical people, and we do not want decline. For our history and our future, see Reagan.
You're listening to The Real Story with your host, Jeannie Ives.
How about that? Another commercial to go see the movie Reagan. I saw it. I thought it was great. If you grew up in that era, you would like it because you will remember what that was like and what Reagan did. Anyway. Oh, yeah. I love this bumper movie music for the Watchdogs. And with us now is John Kraft. John, thank you for joining me tonight. You have this interesting case from Caseyville, Illinois.
Yeah, it deals with elections, and it deals with municipal officers, electoral boards, and a municipal attorney. I sent you the PDF where this guy responded to the Attorney General's office for a complaint of an illegal closed session on July 3rd. Well, after I sent a FOIA request in for the closed session video and filed the complaint, the board released the audio recording of the closed session. So he's just wrapping up this investigation. But what's interesting, he includes things that he probably shouldn't have included. But needless to say, he billed the village of Caseyville for campaign research or something similar to that. And what he told the Attorney General's office was that in the closed session, he responded to the board members who wanted more information on the billing statement that he was investigating whether a resident was committing election law and campaign law violations by purchasing a social media, basically a Facebook page for $1,000, announcing himself as a candidate for mayor, and then using that page to post campaign-related literature. Now, let that sink in.
He was basically trying to look into his opponent's expenditures, and he was using official money to do it.
Yeah,
right?
He was researching somebody that said, I want to be a candidate for mayor.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine
No.
if that was legal? I mean,
No.
he tried to say, well, I didn't do it. I didn't do it for anybody's campaign. I did it because I'm also the attorney for the Municipal Officers Electoral Board. Well, that's fine if he says that, but if you know anything about electoral boards, and I'm sure you do, you've objected to petitions
Yes, I
or
have.
had yours objected to, they only meet and they only act on a petition objection that is filed in the specific 10-day time frame after
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
last day to file your petitions.
Yeah.
Then they send out a notice, then they meet, and it's typically for 1, 2, or 3 meetings, and then they render their decision, and then they close down till the next election.
That's right. That's exactly how that happens.
They have no authority to investigate somebody who bought a Facebook page and said, I want to be a candidate. And what kind of crap is that?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
I sent you the email I sent this attorney. His name is, let me look up his name real quick. Doug Stewart Law Group, Fairview Heights, Illinois. But I sent you the email I sent him, and I basically, at the end, I asked him to return the funds that the municipality gave him for his, fake investigation.
yeah, the attorney should have known. This is,
he's a younger attorney, so he's probably just doing what the mayor asked him to do.
Okay, so Caseyville is a small town. It's in St. Clair County. It's over by, the Missouri border. Population about less than 5,000. I get it, but I mean, it's not rocket science to understand that you can't do that. Is anything going to happen to the current mayor? Whatever on this?
Probably not. The guy's not actually running.
Okay.
I
So
got information that the person they investigated only did that. Number one, because he wanted the Facebook page, and number two, he just wanted to see what the response would be from the village. And, he sure got that response.
So now the mayor's going to run unchallenged, and he's going to continue to do these sort of shenanigans without, and apparently the people don't care.
I mean, well, we don't know if he's going to run unchallenged yet. I just don't think the guy that actually did this is going to actually run for office.
Well,
I don't think he qualifies. I don't think he's been a resident long enough.
I mean, if there's residents in Caseyville, I'm going to tell you right now, I encourage you to run against the mayor. He can't be doing this stuff.
There's residents in Dalton and Thornton Township too, but it's hard to find somebody that wants to run for office.
That's so true.
It's amazing.
It's brutal.
Then,
it's brutal. Running for office in the state of Illinois is brutal.
When you find out a municipality is investigating you just because you put something up on Facebook that you're going to run for office, that tells other people, don't say you're going to run for office, or we're going to use the village money to pay our village attorney to do an investigation on you because you decided you want to run for office. I
guarantee you less than 1,000 votes are right there is what put him in that mayoralship. So it's not like it's a tough race to run, but still, who wants to hassle, right? Everything in the state's a hassle. So that's why, I mean, look, there's good public officials out there. Let's just put that out there. There are good people that do good work and keep the trains running on time and make sure that your sewer system works and you got good water and all of that. And people who do that, who serve on those boards, those local boards, God bless them for doing that unpaid, mostly for the most part, unpaid work. It's not easy to deal with constituents sometimes and their complaints. But there's a whole other host of people that just, they should have never been in office, and we need good people to stand up and run against them. That's how I feel about it.
And I want to give us a plug for this coming Saturday.
Oh, yes. Tell us about that.
American Watchdogs giving a 4-hour class in Bolingbrook, Illinois on Saturday morning from, I believe, 10 to 2.
And how do people sign up for that?
You don't need to sign up. Just on the American Watchdogs Facebook page. We have a flyer up, and just show up at the location.
Okay. Say that again. Bolingbrook on Saturday.
Bolingbrook, Illinois, 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock.
This Saturday. Okay, excellent. Okay, well, we'll put out a blast email about that too. Hopefully we'll get some people there. All right. Okay, hey, thanks a lot. Yeah, John and Kirk, thanks so much for joining me tonight. Really appreciate it. And we will be right back just to tidy things up for the night. This is The Real Story with Jeannie Ives.
AM 560 listeners, sign up today to receive a free financial education video series, The 5 Retirement Pitfalls and How to Avoid Them, courtesy of Steve Shyman, host of Protecting Your Assets radio show, Saturdays at 8 a.m. Sign up is easy, and the 5-part video series is completely free and will arrive in your email inbox. Sign up today. It's free. Please text your name and email address to 833-945-7283. Again, please text your name and email address to 833-945-7283.
Quick delivery service. What do you need delivered today?
Hi, I'm trying to work through a last-minute to-do list for my boss. Can you deliver a hard drive to the Loop in Chicago?
We can deliver that today.
Okay, can you deliver 20 boxes to a client in Rockford?
We can deliver that today.
Can you deliver 12 pallets of tile to our customer in Naperville?
We can deliver that today.
Can you deliver a large envelope to Northbrook?
We can deliver that today.
Oh my gosh, I think my water just broke. Can you...
We cannot deliver that.
Quick Delivery Service delivers your package no matter the size. More than just a messenger service, Quick Delivery Service is a messenger and trucking service that can also provide scheduled routes for your daily delivery or your air shipment. Trucks are equipped to handle the load and provide ground-level service for same-day delivery. The Quick Delivery Service team of safe, licensed professionals can provide quick door-to-door service for your special delivery. QuickDelivery.com. That's QuickDelivery.com. We deliver that today. But we don't deliver this.
Hi, this is Carl Amari.
I'm Lisa Wolf. Join us every Saturday night beginning at 8 p.m. for all things entertainment on Hollywood 360.
If you love classic radio shows, The Shadow, Jack Benny, The Lone Ranger, Dragnet, Gunsmoke, and many more, we have them for you on Hollywood 360.
We'll also present trivia contests with prizes, showbiz news, celebrity interviews, games, and movie reviews.
So don't miss Hollywood 360 every Saturday night beginning at 8 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, more of The Real Story with your host, Jeannie Ives.
All right, I want to thank you for joining me tonight. Again, don't forget, Waltz wants you guys to have these discussions about the campaign in the produce aisle. That's what he wants. He wants you to, talk to them over the cucumbers, whatever. Don't take the bait. Don't do it. In the meantime, there were a lot of unanswered questions, and I think we know what Kamala's response would be. So how would she respond to student loan bailouts? Okay, how about how would she respond to the, what about that, the pullout from Afghanistan, Kamala? Yeah, all right. Okay, Kamala, can you tell us, how are you really going to solve the home ownership problem? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, how about it? Do you know the difference between a boy and a girl, Kamala? Yeah. All right. There you go. The choice is clear. We'll see you next week on The Real Story with Jeannie Ives.
Worried about Mom. She's having a tough time moving around the house.
Oh, I know. She still thinks she can do everything on her own.
Exactly, but I've been over there every day this week helping her navigate the stairs, cooking meals, reminding her to take her medicine. I'm always nervous when I leave.
You know what? I admire you for taking care of Mom. But your family needs you too. And what if she slips and falls? A friend recommended the caregivers at Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. They service Cook, DuPage, Kane, and Will counties. They guarantee compatibility and they'll conduct a free safety assessment of her home. Plus, they'll provide as little or as much care as Mom needs.
Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest, offering both hourly and live-in care. Schedule a free assessment today by calling 331-281-0728. That's 331-281-0728. Again, that's 331-281-0728. And tell them AM 560 sent you. Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. Senior care, only better.
This is Chicago's election station. AM 560, The Answer. WIND, Chicago. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM 560 mobile app, or tell your smart speaker to play The Answer Chicago.
Another scare for the former president. I'm Kathleen Maloney, Fox News. Florida authorities giving details on what the FBI is calling an assassination attempt on former President Trump while he was at his West Palm Beach golf course. More from Fox's Gernal Scott.
The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office is working with federal law enforcement as this incident is investigated. The Secret Service fired shots at the suspect after seeing his gun poking through the bushes. The suspect was caught in another county. An AK-style rifle with ammunition was found in nearby bushes. As to how close the suspect was, Palm Beach Sheriff Rick Bradshaw said,
probably between 300 and 500 yards. But with a rifle and a scope like that, that's not a long distance.
The FBI is saying it believes the former president was the target. Both President Biden and Vice President Harris were briefed on the situation and say they are glad the former president is safe. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
In one of the more viral moments from Tuesday's presidential debate, former President Trump pushed claims that Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio, are eating pets. Despite local police and city officials saying there's no evidence of that happening, Trump's running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, is not backing away from those claims on NBC's Meet the Press.
I'm not repeating them because I invented them out of thin air. I'm repeating them because my constituents are saying these things are happening. I mean,
but there's
just
no
yesterday,
evidence.
a video came out of a migrant 30 miles